house. All right, I'm having a conversation already talking about the social media issue with Arthur Goldstock, who's my guest here. He's the MD of Worldwide Works. As mentioned, our question of the day is, what is your concern, if anything, about the impact of social media? There is a huge concern that much content that would not normally be accessible on mainstream media is accessible on social media and may have influence that is of concern to some. Specifically this week, there were reports of a young South African teenager wanting to leave her home to travel to Syria to join ISIS. Well, Arthur's here. Let's talk about this. Arthur, welcome. Good to have you on the program. Social media is massive. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. Most people have some form of a profile on social media, but the youth are very susceptible to negative things. Talk to us about this. How bad is it?
Well, firstly, if you understand that about 1 in 4 South Africans are on Facebook, then clearly Facebook is almost the default way of communicating with anybody if you are friends or in a social circle, but increasingly also if you support the same kind of cause. And Facebook is very slow to take down hate speech, for example. Yeah. Images, breastfeeding, they'll take that down in an instant. But hate speech, supporting violence, that kind of thing, stays up until enough people complain or someone gets around to reviewing someone's complaint about it. And that leaves a massive gap for people wanting to get out a message or recruit people, not necessarily to participate in activity initially, but certainly to being sympathetic to a cause. And in that way, you start almost building a recruitment pool. It's almost like if you look at LinkedIn for professionals, where they build up talent pools of people, the recruiters will try to get as many people as possible to be their connections. Now, in other forms of social media, the recruiters for terror groups like ISIS, for example, will also try to get as many people in their pool of sympathizers, people who've clicked like on some kind of hate speech or some kind of unpleasant reference to let's say anti-Western ideologies. It can start as simply as that.
Yeah, it opens them up to all. It
positions you as a sympathizer.
So if we look at this young girl, which obviously we don't know too much about, but there's been a lot of speculation that it perhaps was through social media that she may have been recruited, although reports that I've been reading is saying that her social media has been quite inactive for some time now. Perhaps she was working under a pseudonym, who knows? So, how do they get hold of you? What do they do? Is it promises that they'll make? Is it, I don't know. I mean, it sounds a little bit naive, and I shouldn't be naive because we should know exactly what's going on out there, but it's almost difficult. Perhaps you can inform us. How do they get hold of our children?
I think we have to understand the dynamics behind the recruitment as well. Firstly, there's almost a sympathetic environment. There's a tolerance for jihadist type thinking. You even see personalized number plates saying Jihad GP, for example. When you have that kind of atmosphere, then it seems acceptable. There is that fine line between that kind of sentiment and actually engaging in that kind of activity. But for teenagers, there's a tremendous appeal for the adventure, the sense of being part of a cause, etc. Every teenager tends to be attracted to a cause of some kind, whether it's environmentalism or whether it's a political cause. And this is going over that line. And what is really happening is they are being groomed. And it's the same way that sexual predators will groom children in an online space if they're able to get access to them. In the same way you groom people who have expressed sympathy for these kind of causes. And once you start the grooming, you don't do it publicly. It's done very much below the surface. Children are encouraged to create fake Facebook profiles, fake Twitter profiles, etc., or at least ones that can't be identified. And then the communication happens secretly. And it doesn't happen within, let's say, Facebook's visibility either. Facebook themselves can't see your private messages. So you might create this fake account, have public messages that Facebook would see, but you wouldn't have this kind of communication in those public messages. It would all be in the private messaging that happens behind the scenes.
All right, Arthur, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to stay on a little bit until around about 10 past, 8:15. We can continue this interview, if that's fine with you.
Pleasure.
Because I know there's so much to talk about, and I know parents watching this, I'm sure, are valuing this information. In fact, I was telling you a story earlier. I think it was on one of my, I don't even know anymore. there's so many whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm not sure, but one of my friends actually posted something showing they were looking and doing research on an article they were writing, and it was about One Direction. And the next second, a big pop-up appeared, and it had to do with recruiting. About, are you interested in fighting Western culture and things like that? And if you are, click here. And I mean, that was on an innocent site looking at One Direction. So I want to talk more about that, because that really frightened me. It honestly did. All right, so are we going to take a quick break though? No, we're not even taking a break. We've got music for you. So Arthur, we're going to sit back. We're going to enjoy some music now. We don't want to leave the viewers with a bad taste in their mouth on this Wednesday morning. We're going to give them some wonderful music. In fact, we've got Max Hober in studio with us. He's been nominated for an award that's coming up now. I think it's for the SAMAs, and we look forward to hearing from him. So here he is playing us out on the